Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope we're all doing good and well. So in this Friday's album review, I'm reviewing the newest release from melodic death metal band Arch Enemy and their album Deceivers, which came out today via Century Media Records, and the album is 11 tracks and 45 minutes in length. Now in Arch Enemy, the current lineup we have is Alyssa White-Gloss on vocals, Jeff Loomis and Michael Arnott sharing guitar duties, of course, Charlie Angelo on bass and Daniel Erlandson on drums. You know, I've got to say, I really feel like of this latest incarnation of Arch Enemy with Alyssa on vocals, I think this is the best album I've heard so far of that trio of albums. You know, I quite liked War Eternal. Certainly wasn't really very keen on Will to Power, but this album feels like a pretty firm step in the right direction for the band. And for me, it's their strongest release yet of that trio of albums. You know, it's pretty solid. I think they're getting the dynamics right, the balance of you know, different rhythms and leads right in this album as well. And it feels like the most focused they've been in this newest version of the band. And now I've got to say, I liked the songs on here, particularly where they tease us with a kind of 80s glam rock and heavy metal sound, and even on the opening track, Handshake with Hell, where we get Alyssa's clean vocals featuring for the first time. I think I've heard her singing cleans in her Agonist days. You know, I've really got to say, I would have no problem if Arch Enemy, even though they're a melodic death metal band, decided to take us in a different direction, go full steam ahead into that 80s heavy metal, glam rock kind of territory, give us an album of, you know, I think that Jeff Loomis, Michael Arnott, you know, great guitarists, they could certainly do this with Alyssa singing cleans, deliver us, you know, an album of awesome 80s kind of heavy metal style hits. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. I think that would be fantastic if they did that. So I feel like they're almost teasing us a bit with that. Maybe their next album will be that. I mean, maybe this review will be some sort of, you know, maybe I'm predicting something in the future here. Who knows, right? But anyway, maybe they'll just go more into the heavy melodeath stuff for the next album, and I'll be completely wrong. Right? But anyway, I thought that worked really well when they went in that direction in this album. So in tracks like Handshake with Hell, In the Eye of the Storm especially gave me that kind of bouncy Van Halen-ness in that track. Sunset Over the Empire was great. I mean, actually, I kind of liked the heavier stuff on here. I'm not saying I didn't like the more death metal inclined tracks. I mean, Deceiver, one of the best tracks on this album too. But yeah, in fact, I think going into the tracks now, as I've taken a while to actually get into those, the opening 3 tracks I thought were really, really good, and they were also 3 of the singles we got prior to the release of the album. Handshake with Hell, Deceiver, and In the Eye of the Storm, really strong start to the album. In fact, those 3 tracks alone, I think the best I've heard of Arch Enemy since prior to their newest, you know, since Alyssa maybe joined the band. I really liked those 3 tracks a lot. Poisoned Arrow had a slight more of a ballad feel to it, but it was still relatively kind of, you know, mid-tempo, but pretty cool, powerful track all the same that I quite enjoyed. Again, harking back to a certain sound from a certain era that I like. Sunset Over the Empire was a heavier, you know, tempo, pretty fierce track as the midpoint in the album, which I liked. Again, as a change from Poisoned Arrow, which came before. And I really liked a couple of tracks at the end. You know, Exiled from Earth, especially the final track, ended the album on a high, and I think that was important for this album, that they ended it on a real high. House of Mirrors, also one of the singles, was actually one of the tracks. I don't know why I feel like this is possibly unpopular opinion, because I think this is a popular single that they released prior to the album coming out. But that sounded really familiar, that main riff in this track and that theme. I felt like I'd heard it before somewhere, so much so it affected my enjoyment of House of Mirrors, just because I thought, I have heard this before, this riff, and I just can't place it, so I can't evidence that, but it feels like something I'd heard before, so it just slightly affected my enjoyment of House of Mirrors. Still a good track, right? Still a good track, but slightly affected my enjoyment of that. Spreading Black Wings, I didn't quite fully embrace. I thought it felt a little bit like, you know, I was struggling to embrace that track and get into the style of that track a bit more. It felt slightly more like it was kind of just one of those tracks which probably didn't really suit, for me, the kind of exciting mood of a lot of the rest of the album for me, but that's just my feeling on that one. Otherwise here, a pretty solid release from Arch Enemy. And as I say, I think this is definitely, for me, the best of the more recent era and more recent incarnation of the band. So I think the album as a whole, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. And I think that probably sums up about where I am with it. There are 2 or 3 tracks I'm not quite as keen on. I think that they still have the potential to go further and to knock it out of the park with the next album, because this is definitely a step in the right direction for me, and there's a lot of positives to draw from this. And I'm tempted to also buy this album as well after my listens of this. So thanks very much everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. Do drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy these kind of reviews. I also do rankings videos, sometimes occasionally on sci-fi, horror and fantasy. Otherwise, have great Fridays, have great weekends. From me, take care everybody, bye for now.